Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, a.k.a. the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode 54, the most important meal of the day. Also, we're going to bring you the Las Vegas news that we thought was interesting or worth passing along. And we're going to highlight our drink of the day. But before we can bring you any of that top shelf premium internet Las Vegas podcasting gold, we have got to bring in the founder of Dine Drink Travel and Dine Drink Vegas himself. Yes, of course, I mean the high roller formerly of the High Plains, the king of comps, the leader in the luxury lounge, the Alabama slammer, the man who gets a fit out of being given old fits. Of course, I mean Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you, sir?
I am good, John. But this drink that we've made tonight is not as good as the bottle of Old Fitzgerald that some work colleagues gave me yesterday.
Yeah, and I understand that. And we need to add in some whiskey reviews. You and I were talking about that offline, although we're going to have to work out how to make sure we both have the same bottles, which is difficult because things are stocked differently at our respective liquor stores with different limitations in each market. Although I do propose that we get in the habit of sending each other test tube samples. And since you just got that bottle of Old Fitz, I propose you go first. Anyway, let's skip out of that and let's talk about tonight's drink of the day. So I've been getting Bill to buy some other cocktail ingredients to make some things he normally wouldn't make. But what that means is we wind up with odds and ends of different bottles that we've got to find other things to do. And I talked about last week having added a little bit of Aperol to my wife's Paloma. And we're not doing Palomas this week, but that got me to looking around the internet. And it turns out the Aperol Margarita is a thing. And not only is it a thing, Bill, I think I found somewhere around about a dozen different recipes. So before I get to the version that I added to the run sheet, have you ever heard of an Aperol Margarita before tonight?
I have not. I have thoughts, but my guess is that before I share my thoughts, you should probably tell the listeners what's in it. But no, this is the first time I have thought about this drink.
So it really was me too. I mean, anyway, here's what we came up with. And again, we made an amalgamation based on multiple different recipes I came across. So here's the baseline of what we did. And remember, as I read these ingredients, knowing Bill, he probably made a double. But the baseline recipe that we created for tonight was 2 ounces of blanco tequila, although you could sub mezcal for smoky notes or reposado for some aged notes, 1 ounce of Aperol, 1 ounce of lime juice, 2 ounces of orange juice. Some recipes say grapefruit juice. I think at that point you have a Paloma. And then as an option, you could add up to a 1/2 ounce or so of simple syrup for those with a sweet tooth. All of that gets shaken well and served on the rocks. You could garnish with a wedge of orange or lime. You could rim with salt. You could rim with sugar, or you could rim with Tajin, or you could dry out some orange zest and lime zest and mix that with the salt. A bunch of different things. Bill, did you have any variations, and how did you dress and garnish yours?
So I didn't garnish mine at all because I had been at an event tonight before we recorded. I was kind of in a hurry. I actually made it exactly to spec. The only difference being you listed that the 1/2 ounce of simple syrup was optional, and I did add in the 1/2 ounce. And my basic take on this drink is twofold. One, you've got to use fresh fruit juice, and it's an annoying pain in the butt to, actually squeeze it out and measure it to the appropriate proportions, right. But I did. 2, it's very good. I do like it, but there's too much fruit juice, and there's not enough liquor. I actually like the Aperol, but what I'm going to do now as a man of science is add in another ounce of tequila, because I am committed to the first time I taste it live and on the air. Now, it will be made to spec, but there is 1 ounce of tequila, and John, you're welcome to go ahead and make fun of me for, of course, I'm actually measuring it in a little test tube. And now I'm going to add in a 1/2 ounce of the orange liqueur that I can get here.
And I like that I'm not going to make fun of you for measuring, because we're workshopping a drink recipe, right? We made this as an amalgamation. We're workshopping live on the air, so to speak. So this is one time where measuring is the right move.
This is better. This
Okay.
has this has and it's not just that, it's the end of the day and I would like a double. It's that the proportions here are better. So the drink as listed it's effectively a fruit juice that's got a couple of tequila undertones to it. This tastes like a tequila drink, and if the word margarita is going to appear anywhere in the title, it needs to be tequila forward.
So what tequila are you rocking with? Just so our listeners know, so they can.
Centenario Plata. So, folks, I used to work in Mexico. I had some Mexican colleagues when I lived there who introduced me to Centenario, which is a phenomenal tequila, which, depending on exactly what you get, will cost you somewhere between 25 and $35. So, this is their relatively clear, relatively unaged one. And Centenario is absolutely my go to tequila. Absolutely when I'm mixing stuff, and frankly, a lot of times when I'm just sipping tequila, or when Rachel looks up, it's like, I'm going to need alcohol if I'm going to be married to you. I'm like, sweetheart, here you go. So Centenario is mostly what we drink in my house for tequila.
Yeah. So I when I made my wife's, which is why I was a little late getting on here, I made it exactly to spec, including the sweetener. And like you, I found that the drink was too fruit forward when I did that. So when I made mine, I just wanted to experiment before I added more tequila. And my tequila, and I'm trying to see, yeah, my tequila is called Tequila El Destilador. This is a Total Wine and Spirit store brand. So I did some Googling. This is actually made by Destilería La Prieta in Mexico. And they do make some other brands. I'm looking to see what else they make that might be familiar to people. They make, yeah, it looks like they mostly make store brand things. There's no brands that I recognize. Anyway, I went with the Reposado version of this particular tequila. And I will say that the Reposado, so you get a little bit of an aging note, and the lack of sweetener caused this to be more balanced. Like you, I think a little more tequila wouldn't hurt this drink, but actually I was fine with it just as is. So my advice would be, before you change the ratio and add more tequila, listeners, try it unsweetened first. And then if you find it's not sweet enough, go ahead and sweeten it. But if you find it's not spirit forward enough, do like Bill did and add more tequila. But I would not start with that sweetener, because I think for both you and I, the sweetener was not the thing.
One other note, John. So yes, I added in the extra ounce of tequila, and that mattered very much. I don't know that the extra half ounce of the orange liqueur, and I have an agave orange liqueur because that's what you would want to put in here. I don't know that that didn't make as much of a difference. So another way you might handle that would be cutting down the orange juice from 2 ounces to about an ounce and a half, and making that last half ounce an agave orange liqueur.
And I will say there were recipes that leave out the orange juice altogether and go with, triple sec or curacao or an agave based one. So you could omit the fresh orange juice. I will say you talked about measuring. I do have a bit of a hack when you're in a hurry. So when I make a recipe for the podcast, I do try to measure everything. But here's my rule of thumb. Most of what are labeled as a small lime in the grocery store will be roughly an ounce of lime juice if you squeeze it real hard. And mandarin oranges, those little halos or bellas or cuties, whatever brand your store carries, also run about an ounce of juice per. So rather than measuring, if you're in a hurry, you could go with the juice of one lime, the juice of two mandarin oranges. And as it turned out, when I did that today, I got almost exactly my 1 ounce and 2 ounces. So that's just a neat little hack, because I found that the small lime and the mandarin orange, almost always an ounce, sometimes a little over or under, but we adjust cocktails by taste. So that's one way to do it. And I will say, like, there were at least 3 or 4 recipes that would have said skip the orange juice, go with the orange liqueur. And if you do that too, you're going to get extra sweetness, but it's going to be a boozy sweetness. and that might be more pleasing to some people. Well, all of that into account, you and I are no stranger to the margarita. We have driven Miss Daisy many a time, which, by the way, Spanish margarita just means daisy. So, Bill, what do you think about the addition of Aperol in a margarita? Is this a good idea, and does that raise the possibility of adding Amaros and aperitifs to margaritas, or do you think that the original cocktail is better than this version with Aperol?
They are very different drinks. Since this is the first time I've made one with Aperol, I'm not going to pass that judgment yet. But I like the Aperol. I like it very much. And I'm mostly a whiskey and a vodka guy. I certainly enjoy tequila, but it's not my go-to. So Rachel is coming here in like 3 weeks for a visit, and I think I'm gonna make her this exact drink because I need a ruling from the boss lady about where this fits on the tequila margarita matrix. But no, it is absolutely a contender. I'm not yet willing to say that I like it better, but because I am a scholar and a man of science, I require further testing and repetition to get to a validatable answer.
I think I agree with you. I think this is a situational call. I will say this, the one knock I'll make on this cocktail, unlike the original margarita recipe, I would not want to pound 5 or 6 of these.
Oh, dear Lord, no.
This is definitely I'm going to make one of these and enjoy it. If you're going to make like a pitcher for the poolside or whatever, and you plan on drinking more than one, and maybe you start with one of these and then move on to a more basic margarita. I can't imagine wanting to drink a lot of this. That Aperol definitely starts to leave a bitter note in the back of the mouth. It's not unpleasant, but I wouldn't want several.
Yeah.
And my wife, my boss lady, who's a much bigger margarita and tequila fan than me, only gave me, I said, tell me what you think. I only got one word out of her, which was yummy. So there you go. All right.
One last note before we move on to our main story, John. What does it say about us that both of our wives just want some tequila in order to deal with us?
Number one, it says that in choosing fine tequilas and established gentlemen, that our wives are women of discerning tastes. And if tequila makes them happy, we should pour some.
Word, brother.
Yeah, that's as much as I want to think about that. All right. So let's jump on to something that we know will make us happy and not, us pondering when our wives figure out they could have done better. Let's go back into our trip over Labor Day weekend and let's talk about the most important meal of the day, because we had 2 morning dining experiences that I think were remarkable enough that warrant some time to talk about. So let's start with Saturday. Saturday was our pool day. If you didn't catch it, episode 3, we gave our review of the Mandalay pool. The long story short version is we like it. But before we headed out to the pool, you and I made our way over to Reraw, the Irish pub located between Luxor and Mandalay and the shops of Mandalay upstairs. And we both had breakfast. Not our first time at Reraw. Bill, I want to start with your thoughts because you ordered the full Irish fry-up. And as it turns out, you've told the listeners before, you have a child going to college in Ireland. You've eaten more than one Irish fry-up in Ireland at a few different places. How do you compare Reraw to the genuine article?
It's 100% an authentic experience. And this wasn't my first trip to Reraw on this trip. I had been there for a snack before you got there. I went back at least one other time, one of which was after you and Mike and Zero had gone to the airport and my flight on American was delayed. So I went there at least 3 times this trip, and it may have been 4. And it's, to me, one of the principal arguments for staying at Mandalay Bay or Luxor, because it's equally convenient to either, really. I guess it's like 10 feet more convenient to Mandalay Bay. But the Irish fry-up at Mandalay Bay is a 100% authentic experience. I guess the only difference is that in Ireland, there is a 90% chance that the person serving it to you will be Irish. And in Las Vegas, there's only a 30-40% chance that the person serving it to you is going to be Irish. But it is the same sausages, the same rashers of bacon. it is the same meal. When I went back on departure day, I had their corned beef hash, which is also very, very good. But yeah, if you can only get one meal there, it should absolutely be the Irish fry up, which I'm pretty sure they will sell you at non-breakfast times.
Yeah. And like you, I had two trips to Rera, and the day before on arrival day, y'all had already eaten at the Palms for lunch, and I went in there and I had fish and chips, but I had them bring me some of the Irish curry to dip my chips in because that's really good. For breakfast that morning, I wasn't super hungry, so I wanted to order something on the lighter side. But I also stumbled into a really good deal. So we've talked a lot about Vegas being overpriced. I ordered an English muffin, which came out, it was buttered and toasted on a griddle. But then they brought out a really nice strawberry jam and a little ramekin of peanut butter. And I also ordered a side of the rashers, the Irish bacon, which is not like American bacon. What it is it's somewhere between American bacon and Canadian bacon, but the difference between this and Canadian bacon is this is actually good. Irish rashers, good. Canadian bacon, travesty. But a cup of coffee, my Irish rashers, and my English muffin all came in under $10 before tax and tip. I think I would have been, actually, I think it was so low, it would have been like $12 for with tax and tip at a sit-down meal. Now, of course, I then turned around and ordered a pint of Guinness, and I also tipped generously because I'm drinking Guinness at breakfast. But if you got to do breakfast on a budget, but you still want a sit-down meal, and you're willing to be a little bit creative, there were 2 or 3 things on the Rera menu that would give you a nice little breakfast at a pretty reasonable price. And even your Irish fry-up, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't horribly expensive. So there are some food values on that menu.
So I obviously loved Reraw, hence why I went at least 3 times, and I think it was 4. There is one thing I would recommend not getting for reasons which are not clear to me. I wound up, actually, I know why I did it. I wound up, and I think it was the meal with you, I wound up getting a Bloody Mary because that is my standard breakfast drink in Vegas, right, for dealing with the morning after. And it was fine, but they've got better choices. And if you want a Bloody Mary, there are better options in Las Vegas. So I would absolutely go. I loved it very much. But get an Irish coffee, get some Irish whiskey, get a Guinness, or maybe you slow down for a little bit and get some coffee and some water. The Bloody Mary, I don't know that I would repeat.
Yeah, and I went with the trifecta. I had the water, the coffee, and a Guinness, and was a really lovely meal. All right, so we had a great breakfast there. I think I mean, clearly we both ate there more than once. We highly recommend Rera. I think we've talked about it before. Let's jump into Border Grill. Now, you had a video reviewing lunch at Border Grill because you'd gone there with Ryan not that long before. This was our second time to do brunch there on a guy's trip, but the menus changed a little bit. So what was your take on brunch at Border Grill?
So I was initially skeptical because the first time we went, there were more menu options and they decreased the menu. But I think we worked our way through all dozen options, and it was just phenomenal. Do be aware that whatever the price is, like $43.99, you're almost certainly going to spend more money than that because you're going to want something to drink, and it's Vegas, so it'll probably be a cocktail. And they've got some truly phenomenal interpretations of the margarita, but just the food. Like they really honored the deal. They were pretty fast with bringing us more food. They were pretty frequent with stopping by, and the food was just so good. And I'm trying to think what my favorite bite was, and I think my number 2 choice was the chicken tamale, but my number 1 choice was what was that shrimp thing, the campechana?
Yeah, they were calling it campechana, and it was basically a spin on ceviche. And yeah, I'm with you on the 1 and 2. Those 2 bites of food were incredible. Nothing they brought out was bad. I will say the Benedict was a little weird. The Mexican Benedict was a little weird.
Sure.
I probably wouldn't do that again. I'm glad I tried it, but I wouldn't go back. The chicken and waffle was interesting, but
I love
yeah.
I love the chicken and waffle. I thought the chicken and waffle was great.
It was.
Mike didn't like it as much, but bless his heart, he's from Pennsylvania, so if they put any spice in it, he doesn't know what he's doing anymore.
Yeah, and the chilaquiles were really good chilaquiles, but I kind of feel like when you've got premium items on option, I would skip that, not because it was bad, but because if you're trying to get your $45 out, eat all the shrimp that you can, and those chicken tamales were just. I love tamales. That may have been the finest tamale I've ever had. In all
So
honesty, I can't criticize it.
one other recommendation, and I'm sorry for stepping a little far afield from the subject of this particular episode, but folks, if you are there at Border Grill and it is not weekend brunch time and it's any other meal of the day, I was there in May, and this is actually the video which is up on the Dine Drink Vegas YouTube channel right now. Their pozole is just phenomenal. I almost, John, ordered some pozole at this meal, even though it would have cost extra because it wasn't part of the all you can eat. But gosh, that is a good bowl of soup, which is exactly what you need on a rough morning after in Las Vegas. So, Border Grill people, if you're listening to this, please be kind to us and add that to the unlimited brunch. It's literally soup, right? It's not going to cost you that much.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, for the listeners who may not know, pozole is a pork stew. If you have been tempted to try menudo because you've always heard that menudo is this great classic Mexican soup, but you can't get past the idea of eating tripe, cow stomach, you don't like the texture, you don't like the thought of it. Pozole is a very similar dish, but it's got just chunks of pork, usually cubed up pork shoulder. So it's not a strange or exotic cut of meat to most American palates. So if you've been too scared to try menudo, or if you tried it once and the texture threw you, pozole is every bit as authentically Mexican. That is a real deal thing you get in Mexico, but it's way more approachable for those of you that may be a little bit hung up on certain cuts of meats. And Bill, I'm an adventurous eater, but I got to admit, even for me, I might get a bowl of menudo about once a decade because I just don't love the texture. Pozole is a winner every time.
Yeah, 100%. There they make it with a red chili broth. And okay, it's a pork broth, right? But then with a lot of red chili in it, it presents as a red chili broth. And it's just, that is the best thing on their menu. But yeah, no, I would absolutely go back there for brunch. So John, I'm going to put you on the spot here. The authorities have finally caught up with you. It is your last meal on this earth, and you can only have one of the meals. Do you go for the unlimited brunch at Border Grill, or do you go to Reraw? And I'll make it more complicated because the authorities in Texas have decided to be super kind to you. They let you have one cocktail with your last meal, and it is the standard drink that they would make at either restaurant. So either the Irish coffee or a Guinness at Reraw or one of the margaritas at Border Grill.
I think that extra criteria that I only get one beverage and it's something that's standard and classic to the restaurant, Guinness is hands down my favorite beer. I say that Fuller's 1845 and Fuller's ESB are pretty close, but Guinness, particularly Guinness on draft, done right by Irish bartenders who know what they're doing. Yeah, I think at that point I go for Reraw, and I probably do the full Irish fry up, which I didn't get this time, but I've had before. And unlike you, I even eat the pud. I'm down for the whole
no,
meal.
sir.
I don't want the beans because that's an English fry up, and I like that Reraw does it. They'll sell you the beans on the side, right? But the beans are usually an English fry up. The Irish, they got them, but they don't. It's not automatic. Yeah, I get the full Irish fry up. I get as many pints of Guinness as the state will allow me, and I think that's the way I go. Bill, I have a feeling you're going to go the other way.
So I don't honestly know. And yeah, I don't honestly know. And that's why I asked you the question, because I was afraid you might ask me the question instead. But, you know what? I love both of the meals. And here, sometimes I disagree with you just for recreational purposes. but I think I go with a re-raw meal as well because there's just something about the comfort food of that big fry up sort of a meal. And it turns out that they have some phenomenal Irish whiskey options at prices that aren't good, but that also don't make me hate myself and that I don't feel the need to tell my wife a story about.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Yeah.
So, Bill, with that covered, why don't you launch us into our first news story?
Right. So Scott at Vital Vegas reported that the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority has added some brandage and signing and a photo op to reimagine the rideshare pickup area at Harry Reid International Airport. They didn't fix the long waits or the crowded space, so I guess it'll still be just a slightly nicer cluster. And listeners, if so, we've got several different YouTube channels, one of which is Dine Drink Vegas Shorts. John posted a short on that channel of the arrival scene when he got to Vegas a couple, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, and it is not well designed and well organized. So,
No.
John, would you please, sir, describe your experience of going to the rideshare area there at the Las Vegas airport?
So I will say that thankfully it was brief because I'd gone ahead before I walked out the doors. So still standing in the airport proper upstairs on your way to the parking structure where rideshare was. I went ahead and summoned my ride. But when you get out there, it was so busy and so crowded and people are everywhere and it's loud and people are in a bad mood and nobody wants to wait. Thankfully, my ride showed up within about 5-6 minutes, which was good. But there were some other people who waited till they got out there and put their bags down and got settled. And the other thing I did was I went ahead and I paid for an upgraded ride. Normally, I don't do that. If it's just me, I'm going to take the cheapest Uber or Lyft I can get. I went ahead and upgraded to the Uber Black because the car could get there faster. So I paid more to get the heck out of there. If you're staying on the Strip and it's a busy travel weekend, I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't like the taxis in Vegas. Take the taxi. They have fixed rates to the Strip hotels. The taxi line is less soul crushing. I think if you're downtown, rideshare is still a better deal financially than the taxis because you get long hauled, which is not a good thing. If you're going like off Strip, Red Rock, M Resort, whatever, probably do the ride share. If you're staying on the Strip for arrival, go get a cab. You could take ride share back if you want. That's okay because the drop off's fine. But that pickup, yeah, if you're staying on the Strip, I think the next time I go, I'm getting a cab. It was that bad. And you know me, I'm a ride share guy. Next time I'm taking a cab.
Yeah, that is fair. Well, what else is going on, John?
So Scott said that the Wynn has gotten rid of their 000 roulette finally. Just when other properties are thinking about adding to 4 zeros. Personally, I think 00 should be outlawed too, but that's another story. Bill, how about Wynn revamping their rewards program and making the gambling odds suck a little bit less by ditching the 000?
So there was a story I almost put on the run sheet for tonight, and I didn't wind up including it, but it was talking about a lot of Vegas shifting to the high-end gambler. And I'm trying to decide how much of that hype that I believe. But the Wynn is one of those places which has always appealed to the high-end gambler. And my guess is that those guys are like, hey, we got money because we've got an ability to do math, and those are terrible odds.
Yeah.
So, I want to believe this portends good news in the future. I don't know that it does. But I'm pleased that one of the upscale properties is getting rid of it. The budget properties have been slower to adopt it in the first place, but given Vegas's turn towards the upscale, yeah, I think that is good news, and I hope it sticks.
Yeah, and I would think too, I almost get a place with low table minimums having worse rules because they've got to play on volume. But if you're a luxury resort, look, all of those games, the house has an edge. And if you're rolling out $25 minimums at a roulette wheel with a big house edge. You don't need 000. You don't need 00. You're going to make your money. You're going to make your money. So I think it ought to be the high-end casinos that are the first ones to offer better odds because the finances already work in their favor. They don't need to gouge because their minimums are high. So you would think it would be those properties. And also your customers spend more to stay there. They spend more to eat there, make the gambling better. I think everybody ought to do it. But, I feel like this is anytime the odds get better, that's a win.
It absolutely
it's a win at the
is.
win, no pun intended.
Well, in other news, in the last story that we borrowed from Scott, because we do have other news sources and we do quote them on this channel, but Scott also announced that there is a new GM at the Palms, and on X, he broke news of yet another management shakeup at the troubled Hilton Asset Resorts World. So you weren't there with us. We were in the Palms today. I couldn't tell any difference, but the Palms is frankly always as busy as I could expect given how far off the strip they are. I'm beginning to get worried about Resorts World because there's only so many problems that you can fix by hiring a new management team. And John, we've talked about this before. You haven't been in Resorts World yet because it's never perfectly convenient to the trip we're on, but I think that's part of the problem. They premise themselves as a high-end resort, but they're located such that you have to go there on purpose. You're never going to be, go in on accident because you're walking by. What do you think?
And your most walkable neighbor is Circus. One of these things is not like the other.
Absolutely not. So, John, I very much hope we will get you to Resorts World at some point because it is a lovely property. But something's going on there because I've lost track of the number of management shakeups they've had at this point.
Yeah, I think they changed them out so quickly. It's a little bit ridiculous. And I don't know what the answer is for Hilton. You and I have talked about this before that I do think there's too much inventory of luxury, but I don't know how Resorts World appeals to a more budget. What are you going to do? Turn the Crockford into the Hampton in Vegas? I mean, you're Hilton, right? That's kind of your bag. And I do feel like that Fontainebleau and Resorts World cannibalize each other's potential customers because your customer is rich people who, for whatever reason, wanted to try something other than the Wynn. There's only so many of those to go around. I think either Fontainebleau or Resorts World have got to go down market. And that's going to hurt whichever one does it, but I don't see another option. Either that, or we're going to need, 50,000 Americans to all win the lottery and decide they like Vegas. Because I don't know how else you keep that much high-end inventory on such a remote part of the strip.
Absolutely. All right, fair.
All right, well, let's keep this theme going because Las Vegas locally, and I found this because Scott from Vital Vegas retweeted it, Las Vegas locally broke news that MGM Resorts will dump some 800 mid-management positions, reportedly with directors, executive directors, and vice presidents competing for jobs. Bill, I just started imagining that scene in The Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight where the Joker takes two guys and makes them fight to the death for a job. Like, this starts to feel a little Hunger Games-y for the mid-management executive class. Is this a good sign that they're getting leaner at positions that don't directly impact consumers, or is this a bad sign?
Yes, it is. So if you're going to cut jobs, you obviously want to start with the stuff which isn't customer facing. So that's good news. On the other hand, I feel for those folks who are good folks who, have advanced in their careers to get those jobs. And if they were making a whole ton of money, the question would never have come up. So I'm hoping this doesn't, imply some sort of a larger struggle. What do you think, John?
I do think they've gotten as lean. We did 3 episodes on your customer service experience with MGM. I think it's fair to say they have gotten as lean as they can possibly get in customer facing jobs. And if they're going to do any more restructuring, It's got to be at the management level, because we're already seeing the customer experience suffer, and you can only push the consumers so far before they vote with their feet. So if they've got to cut jobs, these are the jobs to cut. And I do think you and I, in different capacities, have worked for medium to large size organizations with a lot of employees. I think a lot of our listeners have too. In any organization, there's a lot of people who have back office desk jobs that require them to wear a tie and nice shoes to work, where everybody else above and below them in the organization wonders, what does that person actually do all day? And while I don't enjoy seeing anybody lose a job, but if you got to get lean, I think that's where you get lean.
I have a nice job, which requires me to, dress nicely, but people can identify what I do, and it results in my colleagues buying me bottles of Old Fitzgerald. So, yay, I would argue that I win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm not saying nobody with a tie deserves a job. I'm one of those people. Just not sure they all do. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. In other news, Brock Radke at Las Vegas Weekly reports that Penn Entertainment's recent announcement that the new hotel tower at M Resort will open in December also includes the addition of Emeril Lagasse's restaurant Merrill, which will expand from New Orleans with this location in Henderson. It's Lagasse's first off-strip project in the Las Vegas area. So on the one hand, John, that actually is interesting to me, and I would like to try it because I enjoy watching the man on TV. But on the other hand, we've talked about going to some of these off-strip resorts for years now, and we keep not doing it. So what do you think it's going to take to get you to actually go to one of these off-strip resorts?
I've actually thought about this because I'd like to see us do this. And what I think we do is, it seems like, and it may not be this year because I'm about to go through a work transition that may make it where I don't get to, I might not get any Vegas trips in 2026. If I do, it might be one. So it might not be this upcoming year. But when we get those random trips where it's just you and me and none of the other guys go there, since you and I have a tolerance for this, I think if we do a 3-night trip, we hop and we do a night at Red Rock, a night at M, and a night somewhere else. And we can do downtown or the Strip if we want, or we can go hit another station resort. We can go hit Sam's Town if we want to be really off the wall. But I think this takes an intentional trip that we're doing this partially just to generate content for our platforms and partially because we're curious. I think it would be very hard for us to sell this on the group of guys we travel with because you're so far from everything else. Oh, South Point. That's my proposal for a 3-night trip, Red Rock, South Point, and M Resort. I think you and I do that on one of those trips where the other guys aren't coming and our wives have had enough of us.
All right. Well, I am absolutely there for that, man.
So the next story comes from What Now Las Vegas, but I'm going to stop between these two stories. So listeners, this is usually the point in the podcast where we are going to pull restaurant content from two places. One of those is Eater Vegas, but we talked about cutbacks at the Eater organization. It seems that Eater Vegas is back to doing listicles and there's no real news being put out there anymore, which is a shame because Vegas media is better when Eater is churning out news and not just here's our 25 best brunch picks. Not that the listicles aren't fun, because we'll do those too. The other source is Al Mancini's Neon News. But Bill, it turns out that a couple of months ago, Scott's favorite newspaper, the Review Journal, revamped their social page where they cover casino, entertainment, and restaurant news. And they now called it Neon. Even though Neon Feast and Neon News have existed well before this launch. And so at present, there's no news on Neon News. On their podcast, Food and Loathing in Las Vegas, Al Mancini and company have announced that they're going to be adding news onto their Neon Feast website. But as of today, when I went looking for news, it wasn't there. And I don't know this for sure, but my hunch is this must be a beef over branding between the little guy, meaning Neon Feast, and Al Mancini. And the paper that every blogger and podcaster has noted steals stories from people like Scott or Las Vegas Local. So the big established paper that bullies local content creators in terms of stealing news stories without giving attribution now seems to have muscled in on Al Mancini's branding, which I find to be obnoxious. But I'm going to get off that rant because, someday we might want to be sponsored by the Review Journal. So I shouldn't bite the hand I hope someday feeds us because we'd like to be monetized. It's not that Bill and I aren't for sale. It's just nobody's buying, okay? Anyway, What Now Las Vegas, which I did not know existed until I had to go Google hunt for stories, has coverage of the Mob Museum's plan to open the Starlight Lounge in October. Now, several places broke this story, but they went a little more in depth, which is why I went with their coverage. This is going to be an open-air cocktail venue with live music, not in the museum, not on the roof of the museum, but in an open-air format just east of the museum building. Bill, I know you like that speakeasy. Any interest in checking out the Starlight Lounge when it opens?
Absolutely. So I like the Strip better than I like downtown. And I make a good living, and Rachel makes a good living. And the Strip has just about priced themselves out. It's not that they've priced themselves out of what I can afford. It's that they've priced themselves out of what I want to pay for most trips, which means that downtown Vegas is becoming more of a live option. And I do want to go to like a hotel district, which means basically the Strip or downtown. And since downtown is a thing, yeah, I would love to do this. Also, it's not like the speakeasy downstairs is going to suddenly shut. So there would be some two amazing options to go drink at right as I walk past the downtown Grand and yell at them for being such a terrible property full of very bad people and broken machines.
You better yell quick because I have a feeling they're not long for this world.
I think that is absolutely fair. And John, do I assume correctly that this place is 100% up your alley?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the speakeasy at the Mob Museum. I love open air bars. You're putting together one of my favorite cocktail programs because the menu there is great. The bartenders know what they're doing, and you're putting it in an outdoor venue with live music. What's not to love? I'm in.
Awesome. Well, in other news, according to KSNV, The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere has sold $65 million worth of tickets to 500,000 people so far. That works out to an average of $130 per ticket. So tickets went on sale June 10th. Shows started August 28th. So not all those people who have purchased tickets have yet been through. But that's a hugely popular sort of attraction, which will probably justify what I imagine their enormously high electricity bills to be. John, have you actually been to a show at the Sphere yet? Because I have not. Have you been there?
Yeah, I went with my with two buddies of mine from up north of Dallas, and we went to go see Postcards from Earth. We were absolutely in the right headspace to go in there and take in that sort of show. It was a short show, so the tickets were, I think, under $50 because it's maybe a 45-minute to an hour long thing. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it was still a lot of fun. The venue is amazing, and I would absolutely put out this kind of money to see The Wizard of Oz. I can think of some other movies I would love to see this way. Pink Floyd's The Wall, for instance, would be pretty cool this way. Weirdly, Disney's Tron from the 80s would be cool this way. Any movie that's just super visually appealing, I would be down for. I think that sounds phenomenal. But Bill, you know what doesn't sound phenomenal?
What does not sound phenomenal, John?
We have a Vegas WTF news story. I know you love a good What the Fudge news story. And this one's coming from Las Vegas Locally again. By the way, if you don't follow Las Vegas Locally on social media, you should. Lots of great stuff over there. But Las Vegas Locally reported that a top Las Vegas stripper, I don't know how they rank those, has filed a motion to dismiss a lawsuit from an Arkansas businessman who claims she defrauded him out of more than $2.1 million over a 10-year relationship. The man is suing her for $38.5 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Bill, this guy from Arkansas sounds like the dog that caught the car to me. What do you think?
So let us assume his lawsuit is successful. And let us further assume that she has the assets to pay a $38.5 million judgment. What's he going to do with that many $1 bills, John?
Yeah. He's going to need a heck of a change machine. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I don't mean to make fun of the guy's plight. I'm sure he feels like he found the love of his life. You and I do not frequent these establishments. We've talked in the past about, we will go to Vegas and eat too much and have a few drinks. We don't gamble amounts of money that would interfere with our ability to pay the bills. So as vices go, pretty modest sinners. Gentlemen, I'm just going to give a public service announcement. If you choose to go to one of these establishments, not my scene, I'm not going to judge you for that. The girls are paid to be nice to you to get more money. If you keep that thought in mind, you'll be fine. Don't give them money expecting anything more than whatever amount of time they have to give you. They are not falling in love with you forever and ever. Amen. They're not. And even if they weren't strippers, forever and ever, amen, doesn't happen for everybody. This guy had 10 years worth of fun. Most people are lucky to get 2 weeks of fun doing the same thing. I'm just saying I don't have a lot of sympathy.
I also do not. And presumably, this case is going to be heard, if it makes it to trial, somewhere in Nevada, where I can't imagine the jury having any reaction other than, what the fire did you actually expect?
I'm not sure where a jury would be sympathetic to this guy, to be honest with you. Like, maybe if the entire jury pool comes out of like the darkest, most woman-hating corners of 4chan, would this guy have a shot, right? I don't think a jury of, it's a civil case, 8 ordinary American citizens are going to be like, seems legit. He thought he was in love. I don't think it goes that way.
So, do you know who is likely to be one of those jurors, John?
Women.
Yeah, a stripper. A stripper is incredibly likely to be on that jury. And I would love to see that lady's reaction to this. Yeah. Bless his heart.
Yeah. On that note, Bill, we know that not all content makes people happy, as the last story just proved, but our content sure does. So, Bill, why don't you tell the people where to find more stuff?
Folks, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos which give you the information you need to plan your next trip. Most of those are about 5 to 10 minutes, which are on a specific topic, like this hotel room or a particular restaurant. You can also find us on Dine Drink Vegas Shorts, where we talk about gambling odds or lines at the Uber pickup at the Las Vegas airport. You can find us on Dine Drink Travel if you want to find information about air travel, including the lounges at the Las Vegas airport. You can find us on most social media platforms, including Instagram, X, and Facebook at Dine Drink Travel, and you can find me on Blue Sky at Dine Drink Bill. Probably the best platform to find us so is X, because I'm usually there arguing with John about something. John, where can they find you on X?
I am at Dine Drink John. I'm more than happy to talk to you about traveling to Las Vegas, about cocktails, about fine dining, about not so fine dining, about why the Dallas Cowboys are going to break my heart, and why Bill's beloved Texas A&M ought to hire back Jimbo Fisher. We would.
You can go to hell.
I would love to talk to you about any of those things. We're so glad you took the time to listen to our podcast. If you've got a friend who's planning a future trip to Las Vegas and you think sharing our podcast would help them plan their trip, or if you have a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, white Southern dudes talk about things for minutes and minutes on end, either way, Share our podcast with them. You'll be helping us grow an audience. Thank you so much for listening. And until the next episode, happy travels.